Hi, Vinay. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. So we'll start off because today is more of a longer session. So we'll start off immediately. So yesterday we had discussed revenue and what average revenue is about, what marginal revenue is about, and what total revenue is. So as I recall, revenue is nothing but what a company receives by a sale of by the sale of the goods or services that they sell to the market or they provide in the market, whatever proceeds that they receive in monetary form, either in terms of cash or in terms of um, how do you say it, in terms of digital currency as such, or deposits, bank deposits, whatever money they get back, that itself is revenue. And total revenue is aggregate value of all goods and services, an aggregate value or an aggregate sum that an organization or a company earns based on all units of goods or services that have been sold or used by the market. Average revenue is basically a division of the total revenue as per the number of units sold. So if it's 100 units, or if the revenue, sorry, the total units, total revenue is 100 rupees and the units sold are two, that basically means that every unit is worth 50 rupees. So your average revenue is 50 rupees. And marginal revenue is the sale of the additional sale of one, by selling one unit of a good, the gap, that is the increment that is seen essentially, is the marginal revenue. Uh, so for example, it was total revenue was 100 for two units. So if you sell a third unit and it goes up to 200, then your marginal revenue goes up to 300, then your marginal, sorry, it goes up to 200, so your marginal revenue is therefore 100 rupees. And then your average will change, it will become 100 by 3, so it will actually go down, no, it will become 200 by 3, so it'll actually go up by 16 rupees. So as you saw, a big change in marginal revenue creates a small effect in average revenue. And we are going to see how these three entities, marginal, total, and average revenue, are affected under different forms of markets. So just one question to ask you, Vinayak. What do you think a market is? When economists use this term, okay, the market is showing fluctuation, or the market is the market is there's an optimistic market, so if it's better at this moment of time if you invest in the market, you'll get returns on the money invested. So when economists use the term market, what do you think they are referring to?
As far as I have known, that market is basically a place for producers to, uh, well, matlab, markets as a market is a place which is controlled and managed by producers and various firms and all. This is the place where consumers usually utilize, matlab, buy the utilities to satisfy themselves and all. This is where the concept of demand and other variants take place basically.
Yeah,
As you,
you're
as you
almost,
said
yeah,
that as you said that
yeah,
market is something that economists always go on with, and the shareholders and all the brokers go after with. It is just like a
yeah,
place where individuals look for profit uh, and other goods and
yeah.
variants.
So
Markets are basically those
yeah, yeah,
things
no,
which
no,
basically.
yeah,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't. Oh,
no,
yeah.
it's fine. You gave me a very good definition about that. You've sort of encapsulated a lot. True, a market is a place where producers come as well as sellers come, and it's sort of a bargaining point in general. So if you ever go to the vegetable, like generally, if you go to just generally go to a market, and you'll see that One side they are selling vegetables. On the other side there may be a meat shop, and what people or a dairy, or what people generally do is they go to vegetable owners or people who are selling meat, and they start bargaining for the right price. The producer would want to sell a kilo of mutton for, let's say, around 350, because it gives her or him a profit of 150 rupees, because he or she is buying it at 200, and he or she wants a profit of 150 per kg of mutton. So he or she is selling it at 350, but you can still negotiate with the producer, sellers. Consumers still tend to negotiate with the sellers within that 150 gap. So, for example, if the seller realizes that, okay, this customer does not have the economic capacity to pay for 350 rupees per kilo, I can sell it to them for 300. Still the seller is making at least 100 rupees profit. So market in that sense is a place where people come together. People are interested in buying a good or service, come together, they go and purchase it from the producer or the seller of the good or service, and then they either negotiate and they come and they purchase the good or service. Now, that originally was like a market used to actually be an economic market at one point, but now the market has expanded. And could you just give me one example on how the market has actually expanded in the past few years by a lot?
Yes, I hear you.
No, can you give me an example of of the market expanding itself?
Hmm. Well, we can look up to the real estate market, which has been rising in Calcutta recently, which we were talking about in one of our previous classes, and how the real estate business is increasing in the very outskirts of the city and all.
Yeah, that is not exactly a market. That is a real estate market in the sense that you're selling real estate to people who want to buy. And there is, yes, expansion, but that is generally something that happens in every city nowadays, where cities expand on their own and keep on. Now, when they expand, they sort of capture the neighboring villages, and then those neighboring villages become part of the city, and over a period of time, the city continues to grow and grow. That is true. That is urbanization. That is happening in every country, in every city, everywhere around the world. I'm talking strictly about the market in the sense of a place where buyers meet sellers. Uh, and in that sense, how do you think that market has expanded? And can you give me one example where, in what way has that market expanded?
I'm getting that you're trying to say that this market which you're referring as its nature of expanding and all, but I'm not getting that
Yeah.
what are you actually asking? I'm getting that uh, by the concept of expanding itself. Do you mean that it would become the center of that particular trade?
Not center of the particular trade. I'm saying when the market is expanding, it basically means now the market has found more avenues. The market itself is creating more avenues where people, buyers and sellers, can reach each other more easily, more feasible at a more feasible rate than what was there before. Something like that. Like, people didn't think that it was possible before, but now because the market has expanded, now you can actually do business with people around the world, basically. That sort of a thing.
Oh,
Can you give me one example of how that is done?
I really would say that. Modern marketplace, if you ask for that example, that so it would be like Connaught Place in Delhi, if you know.
Yeah, I know Connaught Place. Yeah, but Connaught Place also still is a market. So I'll give you the exam. I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
Jeff Bezos.
Oh,
Amazon
you're ref-
itself
you're
is,
referring to a
yeah.
particular company as a whole market.
No, I'm referring to a company that has itself created a new market, like Flipkart, Amazon.
Yeah,
What have these people done basically?
yeah.
Originally, if you had to buy a book, you had to go to the bookstore, purchase the book, and then you could go home and read it. Now you can go online, you can search for the book, and it's generally cheaper than what you'll find in the bookstore. And then you'll purchase it, they will pack it for you, and they will ship it to you from wherever you're staying. You do not even need to leave the house. So that itself is a market expanding. So originally, what I was saying, I didn't like 10 years back. If you had told me 10, 15 years back, if you told me that okay, there will be this company known as Amazon and there'll be this company known as Flipkart who will whatever you want clothes, you want food, you want books, you want PlayStation, you want a PC, you want anything on this earth shipped from any, and you can buy it from your phone, or you can buy it from a computer, and you don't need to physically go to the place or purchase, and they will just send it to you at home. All you have to do is pay for it. So that itself, I wouldn't have believed you, to be honest, that such a market would have existed. So what it has done, it you can actually even purchase books and stuff from abroad. There are facilities on Amazon which allow you to purchase a book that may only be available in the United States, and they will ship it to you across the globe and they'll give it to you on your doorstep. So that itself was not possible 10, 15 years back. So that itself is the market expanding, where a seller in the United States can sell me something when I'm sitting in India, which was not possible at that time. It was possible, but then you have to pay heavy import fees and heavy charges just to get that book or just to get that product across the seas and into your home.
May
So
I
that
interrupt?
itself is the market. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that as a market, won't there be such kind of competition at all? Because this example of Amazon, which you're saying, it is completely monopolized. It has no competition. I mean, the sellers, I think they have some sort of deals with them, but I don't think that in particular that sellers which sell tons and different kinds of and different categories of goods and all. But I'm not getting the idea of why Amazon would be a market, because market is something where the concept of competition exists.
So Amazon, yeah, so you're saying competition does not see, there may be a special deal between the sellers who are providing the good to Amazon to allow people to purchase from their web portal. Could very much possible and could be quite true. But it does have competition. So if you ever go to Amazon, just go to Amazon, just Google a book or just Google a product. They will give you one of the best prices. They'll say, let's say you can purchase, and I was just recently seeing one of these books. I was seeing this book written by Thomas Piketty. He's a French economist who wrote this book called Capital in the 21st Century. And there were three options: the Kindle version, which is around 800 rupees, the paperback version, which is 500, and the hardcover, which is 1,600, something like that. Now, in that sense, so but then what I could see later on the right hand side corner of my screen was different sellers for having the same book, but selling me the same paperback version at 450, the same hardcover version at 1,300, and the Kindle edition was like 50 rupees less. But it is more or less fixed to 800 because it's an Amazon product. They don't really change the prices. But the fact that the paperback and the hardcover copy was being offered to me at a lower price than the one that I was looking at is one of the features of an imperfect competitive market where there is competition. The fact that you are using Amazon, both sellers are using Amazon, but they're giving me two different prices. That one is giving me a lower price to sort of motivate me to go more towards that person and purchase the book from him or her rather than going to this seller, is a direct and a principal feature of competition, saying that okay, if I lower my price, more consumers will come to me because as per the law of demand, um, lower the price, greater the demand. So that itself is a feature of competition within Amazon. And you can go and see this, it'll again happen to you whenever you purchase even any other product. Second, Flipkart itself is a major competitor of Amazon. I don't know if you know the story, but the two founders, Sachin Bansal and Binny Bansal, I think so both their names are, they both actually were working in Amazon when they came up with the idea of Flipkart. They copied the entire model of Amazon and they recreated it by using different algorithms and a different UI setup to actually hide the fact that they copied from Amazon. And they set up their own Flipkart. They started their own startup. They set up Flipkart, and they are following the same business model. So that itself is another competitive market that is being created based on Amazon's mechanisms of searching and finding things. The reason Sachin and Binny Bansal used Amazon's algorithms and Amazon's UI to actually and used it, replicated it in a different way on Flipkart, is the fact that they wanted to create a similar model of Amazon within the Indian subcontinent and create that sense of competition, saying that okay, Indians should not go to Amazon. We can offer you the same products at a cheaper rate using the same algorithms, and that itself is another feature of a imperfectly competitive market where you have people creating or recreating the same algorithms that Amazon has used to actually create to push and induce consumers more towards Flipkart rather than Amazon by offering the same product at lower rates, lower shipping fees, all of those things. Because see, if you're based in India, you can set up more wide variety of hubs and headquarters in India. You could have one in Delhi, you could have one in Bangalore, Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad, all these places. So then distribution becomes more cheaper when you have more centers to distribute across. But Amazon, being a worldwide company, cannot afford to open so many centers at once. They may gradually do it, but then they have to do it slowly. So there are shipping costs. So if the main headquarters is in Delhi and you have to ship it to someone in Chennai, but Chennai doesn't have a hub, it's going to cost the person living in Chennai more to get the book. And therefore, that will induce more people to go to Flipkart because Flipkart already has a center in Chennai, so it'll be much cheaper. So that's the point. That is the exact point. That is why, that is how it's a market as well. There is competition within Amazon itself. Within Flipkart, you'll also find such offers where sellers are selling the same product at a cheaper rate to get more people, as well as you have Flipkart and Amazon in a constant battle with each other to purchase the good or service. The third one, I don't know if you've heard, but it's only available in the US. It's known as eBay, which was one of the first few digital markets that actually came up in the world. But the model is inherently different. What they basically do is they create a competition within consumers itself. So if I am selling my iPhone, one of my latest iPhones, in on eBay, I'm basically starting a bidding process. And the more the person bids, so the more the higher the price, whoever bids the higher price, that person ends up getting the good or service that I'm offering or the iPhone that I'm offering. So that itself is again a competition between consumers, and then the seller can decide he or she wants to give it to. And this used to happen even within Amazon and Flipkart, because I don't know if this happened when there was this very old phone called the Micromax U Eureka. It came out in 2014 or 13. but because it had this new OS known as Cyanogen Mod OS, which only Micromax had at that point of time, now discontinued. There and there were a limited number of phones. There used to be a bidding war on Amazon where you had to actually register and log in at the time of the flash sale, and if you're lucky enough, you'll get it booked and you can purchase it immediately. But if you're not lucky enough, you won't get anything. So a lot of people, what they did is they contacted people who had purchased the phone and they bought it from them at a higher price. So there itself, you have competition within the flash sale between consumers. And again, then second is that you go to another person who's already purchased the phone and buy it from him or her. So the market itself has expanded into ways and methods that was not seen before. Originally, what a market used to be, you had to go to a place, specific area within the city where they used to sell. We have it in Pune, we have it like that. We have this Alpa Bachcha Chowk, which is the place where all the school students go to purchase their textbooks. Basically, essentially, they all go to that school. Any board, any class, it doesn't matter. You go there, you get all your books. Um, if you wanted to buy vegetables, you had to go to a mandai or a wholesale market, and you had to go early in the morning to purchase vegetables and fruits that you needed for your entire week. So originally, the market was seen in terms of this, but now the market has expanded into providing all these goods and services on an online digital platform. And one of the biggest examples of this is the vegetable and the fruit market itself, and the meat market itself. You have so many delicious and fresh to home, which specifically sell meat at cheaper rates than the local sellers to get people to order it from home. Second, you have this new GeoMart that we had discussed earlier, where Reliance had started GeoMart to actually sell all household goods and consumables to your doorstep, to bring it at your doorstep. But similarly, you already had Big Basket in competition with them. You had many different Big Basket, GeoMart, and all of these people are already in competition with these people at that point of time. So the market itself has sort of expanded, but coming back to the class, and we sort of digress, but uh, how does essentially the market is a place where buyers and sellers come together to sort of meet and to purchase goods and services that they need. And there are two different main forms. So there are many forms of market. There is a monopoly where you have only one person dictating everything. So you have one seller, only one particular seller of a certain good or service. And the sad point about having a monopolistic market is that the firms are price setters. That basically means is that the firm decides what price the good should be sold at, and also can actively discriminate, which means that they can actively charge higher or lower prices to a certain set of people or a certain set of organizations, because these people or these organizations do not have an alternative chance or an alternative choice to fall back on. So, for example, imagine Reliance itself was the only seller of salt in the market, and they were charging you salt generally sold at what, 15-20 rupees maximum for a kg of salt. That's also quite a high price. But let's say Reliance was selling you that kg of salt for 100 rupees, and you were in a monopolistic market, but only Reliance was making salt. You wouldn't have no choice but to purchase the salt at 100 rupees per kilo, because you didn't have any other. You didn't have Tata salt, you didn't have Puro to fall back on, which could have offered you a cheaper rate for the same amount and the same quality of salt. You have then you have a perfectly competitive market in which the firm is the price takers, and we'll get into why they've called price takers. But what they basically do is that, so what we saw in monopoly is that basically the firm decided what price we should sell it at. But in a perfect competitive market, in a pure competition, what happens is basically the consumer knows everything. The consumer knows what the cost of manufacturing is, what the wage rate for the labor charges are, what the transport and distribution costs are, what is the profit margin that the shopkeeper is earning, what is the profit margin that the digital shopkeeper or the digital seller is earning, and will only purchase the good if it is marked at that price. So let's say, considering all costs and probably revenue margins, it's 200 rupees. The consumer will only buy it at 200. And if there is an increase in price, the consumer will not purchase it. If it is a fall in price, the consumer will not purchase it. Why? Because if you drop the price, the producer is losing money, which is not in the interest of the producer, and most probably will not do it. And the producer cannot increase price, because then in a pure competitive market, there are multiple competitors. There are multiple firms who have come together and decided that we will sell this product at 200 rupees. So even if I raise the price to 220, the other consumers in the market will go to the my other competitors who are selling it at 200, purchase it from them, and I will end up losing money, because no one will want to pay 20 rupees extra for the same product. Um, so consumers know everything; they have perfect knowledge. And that's what you call it when the consumer knows everything. So there is something known as asymmetric information, which which actually is the entire opposite of this. That the consumer doesn't know anything, so the consumer generally gets cheated. It's like, for example, if you go to a car, if you're going to purchase a car, so when you're going to purchase a car in an asymmetric information situation, what happens is the person who's selling you the car knows that the engine will stop running after 2 years, you'll have a lot of problems and all of these things. But that seller will not tell the consumer that, because if he tells the consumer that, the consumer may not purchase the car from them. So that is asymmetric information, where you're purposely hiding important information from the consumer to make a purchase. That's something we'll get into later. But in a pure competitive market, the consumer will know that the engine stops running after 2 years, will know all the faults about the car, and then decide how much I should pay for this car, considering the engine will stop after 2 years. Yeah. So how does, so that's a perfect, and one important thing is goods are homogeneous. That means they are the same in taste, in quality, in size, in price, everything. So if you look at a block of butter, essentially the number of calories will be the same, the weight will be the same, the quality will be the same. So even if so what will happen is Amul's butter will be the same as, let's say, I don't know which other, not Amul, but let's say the phone sold by Nokia would be exactly same as the phone sold by Samsung. So it'll be all the features, internal features will be the same, the battery quality will be the same, the RAM will be the same, everything will be the same. It'll even look the same. So that is what an homogeneous product is, and it will be priced the same. So generally, these pure competitive markets, they generally do not exist in real life. So so how does revenue? So what the big question is, how do these three terms, average revenue, marginal revenue, and total revenue, react in such markets? How do they function in such markets? No doubt up till now, no, Vinayak?
No, I don't know what it is.
So yeah. So as you are discussing, a perfect competition or a perfectly competitive market is an industry, is a structure, or is a market essentially where there are many firms, but none of them are large enough to influence the industry. So what does this mean? It basically means is, even if I increase production levels, it's like a drop in the ocean. It doesn't really create much change. So for example, if you can just try this, if you pour a bucket of water in your house, go and pour a bucket of water and drop 2 3 drops of water or something in that bucket of water. Does it create much effect? No. There will not be a visible change in the water level or the volume level, in the level of the water or the volume of the water. That itself is what this perfectly competitive market means, that even if I am producing the same homogeneous product for years on. Even if I increase production, I cannot change the price of the good. If it is 200, it will stay 200, even if I increase production. Because if I charge it for 220, they will not, my demand for that product will fall. So that is why firms, there are many firms, there are 10 or 20 firms in the market, but those 10 or 20 firms do not have such a big influence in the market that if they want to increase the production and the price of the homogeneous product, they cannot do that. It will not change anything at all. And they will not change the supply curve at all. Yeah. So because of which they are price takers. And how are they price takers? They will negotiate with the consumers and they will decide a specific price. They will decide the price as per. So the price 200, essentially what it means is, if I'm selling my good at 200, it is the price that has been decided by the multiple 10 or 15 firms that are in the market selling that product, as well as the consumers or the market demand that is present in the market at the moment. That all the consumers, either on the digital platform or either in the physical platform, have come together and said at 200, all of us can afford this product and it will be good for you because all of you will earn money. No one will get harmed because no one will want to increase production or increase the price. All the firms will get the money that they want. They can run it long term. It doesn't matter. And all consumers agree to 200 because all of them can afford purchasing the product at 200 rupees. So everyone will buy it. And since it's homogeneous, it doesn't create much of an effect on the consumer's mind because what I am consuming is the same as what my neighbor is consuming. There is not much difference, since there are no differences actually at all, because since it's a homogeneous product, I am getting the same amount of calories by having a buying the same block of butter than what my neighbor is doing, because the products are the same. The firms are actively producing the same homogeneous product with the same quality, with the same content, the same size, everything the same, and everyone is sort of happy. The third point is these producers, these 10 firms, can freely enter and exit the market. Why? Because that competition level is not there. So no one is, so they will allow more and more producers to enter the market because they know that the new producers coming to the market will actively agree with the price for the homogeneous products at 200. And people who are unhappy are free to exit the market, and there will be no uh, ill will or ill feelings towards amongst the producers against each other. And I'd already discussed this point. Both buyers and sellers have perfect information that they know how much the entire production process costs, how much the profit margins are, and how much each consumer should pay for the product. So that 200 rupees that we are discussing, that itself has the profit margin of the producer as well as the profit margin of the seller in the shop or everything. All of that is calculated within that 200, such that everyone is sort of happy, um, even the consumer. So there are no transaction costs. There's always this term transaction costs. So, for example, if you see Amazon, specifically Amazon, even Flipkart to the extent, what does Amazon and Flipkart say? You have to purchase, if you're purchasing one product, it has to be above a certain amount. Only then you will get free shipping, unless and until you're a Prime consumer. So if you're a Prime subscriber, it doesn't matter even if you buy a 100 rupees thing, we'll sell it, give it to you at 100 rupees. But if you're not a Prime consumer and you're buying something for 100, you have to pay 85 rupees shipping costs. It goes up to be 185 rupees. That 85 rupees shipping cost, which would have been void in case I purchased a good above 200 rupees, that itself is a transactional cost that the company is putting on me for purchasing a good that is on the cheaper side or which costs less. So these sort of transaction costs, these transport costs, or these shipping costs, which should have originally been calculated within the selling price for the market, uh, is not there. Why is it not there? Because as I said, that 200 rupees contains all the costs It contains the costs of distribution and networking. So your transaction costs are already have been included in that 200. So in such markets, you do not have any such transactional costs between the buyer and seller in this sort of a market. So how does, therefore, with these features sort of explained, how does AR, MR, and TR uh, get influenced under this perfectly competitive market? So, as I had mentioned earlier on, individually producers cannot increase or influence the supply or influence the supply curve or influence the price in the market just by increasing the amount of production that they're doing. Because it's just a drop in the water if they even try and do that. And it does not affect the total supply at all or the price in the market. So, what does the collective forces of demand and supply do? So, when I mean collective forces of demand and supply, I mean something like this. So, you'll remember something like this, right? This will be your supply curve, this will be your demand curve. So, this price point, which this is the intersectional point, which is here, this price point essentially, let's call it X, is this determined price, is this one price that tends to prevail in the entire industry. So if this is an industry of soft drinks, which would then include Pepsi, and all of the Pepsi products are homogeneous. Multiple. So let's, one of the biggest examples of this actually is not Pepsi, but is one product that has been there for years in the Indian market. I don't know why is this not changing. Yeah, is, I don't know. You must have had this as a child. Even I had it. It's called bourbon biscuits. Now, if you
Yes,
actually see the yeah, you see that multiple biscuit companies are manufacturing the same thing, which is the perfect
yes.
example of a homogeneous product. You have
Mm.
I don't know. You have if you could remind me, you had Britannia making the same bourbon biscuit. Then you had I don't remember the company names,
Then there was one
but
thing
you have
which is called hide and seek and all. Uh,
yeah
those are things. Bourbon originally
yeah
belonged to Bisfarm or something like that company, right?
yeah
Uh,
yeah
let's see.
yeah. But there are things that there were multiple companies, and even today there are multiple companies at this point to make the same biscuit with very similar features, uh, and it's the same 2 bars of chocolate and the chocolate cream in the middle, and you have multiple companies selling it at different rates. But that is an imperfectly competitive market where you have different but in such a, that is an imperfectly competitive market. We'll get to that point later. But the point that I'm trying to make over here is that this bourbon biscuit is being manufactured by multiple companies, which is a perfect example of a homogeneous product in action. That where you have multiple companies manufacturing the same thing. So what they'll do is they will come together and they'll say, okay, instead of you offering a lower price and stealing my consumers, it's better that we all come together and we decide a specific price for it. So it could be 10 rupees or 20 rupees, just something that we are seeing in the market with respect to the bourbon biscuit. You see multiple companies selling the same bourbon biscuit at 10 rupees and 20 rupees. If you go for the 20 rupee packet, you'll get more biscuits. If you go for the 10 rupee packet, you'll get a little less, but you'll still get a good amount. And you'll see that you'll find the same number of biscuits are provided by different companies selling the same bourbon biscuit. So, for example, Britannia will be selling 10, and Cadbury, I'm not Cadbury doesn't make, but I'm just giving, because I can't come up with another name. I think so. Dukes also was making. So Dukes, yeah. So Dukes also will say, okay, I'll sell the same number of biscuits at 10 rupees. So that itself is an instance where multiple people in the bourbon industry, bourbon biscuit making industry, come together and decide we'll sell it at 10 rupees and 20 rupees because that is the best price point for our consumers. The richer consumers can buy the 20 rupee packet, the poorer consumers can buy the 10 rupee packet. So that itself is how these firms become price takers, and they cannot increase the price, because if they increase the price, so for example, if Britannia increases the price of their bourbon biscuits, what will happen? Consumers will go to Dukes and purchase it from Dukes, because Dukes is offering a much cheaper price for the same thing essentially. And Britannia or Dukes cannot increase their production levels because there is a fixed market demand, there's a fixed market price, and if they do that, they will not affect the bourbon biscuit market at all. So it'll essentially stay the same. Uh, so yeah, so that is in itself is a perfect example of how bourbon biscuits are under perfect competition, and they themselves have to come together, and then they have to decide a price in consultation amongst the same people who are producing the biscuit and the people who are interested in purchasing the bourbon biscuit. And since consumers know how much the cost of the biscuit is, how much the cream costs, how much the baking cost, how much the baking powder and the chocolate and the flour, all of that raw materials cost, they know how much the labor charges are, how much the transport costs are. So they know that 10 and 20 rupees is more than enough for the person to make a profit. So they'll buy it that way. They will not buy at 30 or 40 for the same quantity. If you're offering 30 and 40, and the expectation would be that you increase the amount that you're providing to them, or increase the quantity of biscuits that you're providing to them. So why? So when you have such a situation, even if as this firm starts to sell more and more, what will happen? So the firm is selling more and more. They've decided the price. People agree to buy it because they know how much it costs. So at that decided rate, that's 10 rupees and 20 rupees, there will be no drop in production because uh, firms essentially know what the market demand is, because the price is already set in consultation with both parties. You know that people will purchase it. So what effect happens? Total revenue starts going up because the purchasing is happening. People are still purchasing it. People are purchasing it because the price is a fair price. And and what happens is, because the price is fixed, essentially average revenue is equal to marginal revenue. Why? Let's say one bourbon biscuit, there is only one type of bourbon biscuit that exists, valued at 10 rupees. So if you sell one unit, total revenue, average revenue, marginal revenue on the first unit is same, 10, 10, 10. Second unit you sell, total revenue goes up to 10. Average and marginal also stay 10. You sell the third unit, total revenue goes up to 3. Average and marginal are still 10 and 10. You sell the fourth unit, total revenue goes up to 4, and that's 40. Average and marginal are still 10 and 10. So you see what I'm getting at, which is the last point. Total revenue will keep on increasing because the market demand is there. Prices are short, it's a fair price, so people will buy. And since everything is valued at a fixed price of 10, even if you buy 70 units, total revenue may be 70, but because the individual unit is priced at 10 rupees each, the average revenue will tend to equal the marginal revenue. So I'll just sort of give you an example. So this is what basically it will look like. So if you purchase one unit of the biscuits 10, 10, and 10, if you purchase a second unit 20 by 2, comes out to be 10, which is equal to the change from 10 to 20, which is the marginal change. You purchase the third unit, this will become 30, 30 by 3, which again stay 10. and the change from 20 to 30 is again 10. So have you seen what's happening?
Yes, I get the
Yeah.
gist.
Well, because the prices fell, because you agreed to that price, you agreed to it be 10 rupees. Yeah. So this is what it sort of. So this is the graphical representation of ER, MR, TR on your. So this is your graphical representation of ER, TR, and MR in in a perfectly competitive market. And this is the price that has been set. This is the price set up. Like this is the price that has already been agreed upon. So because so one thing is because even if I draw a price point here, let's say this is 10, this is 1 unit, this is the second unit, this is the third unit, and this is 3 million, this is 4 million, this is 5 million. So at every interval of 1 million, the price points are staying fixed. It's not going up in this side, it's not going down. It's not price is not going up. That means price is not moving upward, because of which the quantity demanded is falling. Over here, because of that, because price is going upwards, that means there'll be a movement on the supply curve upwards like this. It's not going down still. So even if price falls, that means it goes in this direction. Quantity supplied by the supplier is not less, because we've already agreed that the price point should be $10 for all consumers. And at that you see that with, like, so for example, with every unit increase, the price is staying fixed, because of which, as we saw in this previous example, AR and MR stay fixed. So they stay fixed at this 10. Similarly, so see, this is 10, this is 10, so they stay fixed at 10, which is here. They do not change. So but because TR is going up constantly, so this will keep on going up on its own. It'll keep on going up. So actually start from here, but this is just graphical. When you're writing and drawing it in your exam, you have to show it convex. You have to show it starting from origin. Why? Tell me why I haven't drawn it from here. Why from this? Why not from this price point?
Oh, wanted just make math words and all.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that wanted just make. Uh, as we know that. Wait, is this AR by him or what? Uh, average revenue by.
No, no, it's not an average. It's AR/MR.
Uh,
That means it's AR comma MR.
I suppose.
Or you can just write it like this. So
Oh, fine, fine.
AR is equal to MR, which is equal to 10, basically. So the reason why it's starting from the origin moving upwards is that if you draw, let's say if you draw a line from this point P1 to the bottom, which let's say is 1, okay, this is TR, this is the TR curve, okay,
Okay.
this is the TR curve. So what we had seen earlier over here, TR is 10 for 1 unit sold, which is what this graph is sort of representing. Then when you draw it here, total revenue will be 20 because there's a plus 10 increase. Over here, it'll be 30, it'll be 3, sorry, and this will be 30. This will be 4, this will be 40. And as you go up, it'll keep on going up. So, for example, it's just a graphical representation of this. We start from origin because of the fact that this is 0 units sold. This is 1 unit sold, so you have to show it somehow. This is 2 units sold. This is third unit sold, and as you go up, so this will be the actually the price point. This actually will be the price point, and this actually will be the price point. So as you go up, it'll start going up, like something like that. Yeah. So this
But
is
doesn't
and
it just but then why would you even just start the curve from the origin? I didn't get.
yeah, we are starting the curve from the origin because you have to show how much quantities of units are being sold. No,
Yeah, but is it valid to take the when the quantity demanded is just zero? You don't need to take that because obviously I don't think that price would be 10 for quantities even like that.
yeah, essentially you do not need to specifically start from zero. You can just show a line going up like this. But but because like see price point is staying fixed at 10, it is staying fixed at 10. There is no change at all in this. Price is staying fixed at 10, but we have to show in the first unit sold how much money is being made. With the second unit sold being sold, how much is the change in total revenue. We have to show that change in second, third, fourth unit. So that is why you have to show something like this moving upwards in this direction. That is why it's just graphical representation. So it does not generally have to start from zero, but we have to show the change in total revenue based on number of units being sold, number of thousand units being sold. So that is why it is shown just for graphical purposes. Yeah.
Okay, I get.
So now you had such a market where everything was basically the same. Now you come to an imperfectly competitive market where there are large number of buyers and sellers. What does that mean? That similar to what the industry that we were discussing before, that you had multiple people selling the same bourbon biscuit diff- at the same price, at the agreed upon price. In an imperfectly competitive market, which we are living in, basically, is that you'll have multiple sellers and buyers of multiple products. So you'll have a phone, essentially. You'll have a phone like this. Redmi will offer Redmi is selling a phone, as well as Apple is selling a phone, as well as Nokia is selling a phone. They're essentially selling the same product. And you have a large number of buyers for an iPhone, for a Redmi, for a Nokia, for a Samsung, etc. But what makes this market different from a perfectly competitive market is that these sellers create the second point, which is product differentiation, which basically means is that an iPhone will look very different than what a OnePlus would look like. A OnePlus looks very different than what a Redmi phone would look like. And that is created, that product differentiation is done to introduce a sense of competition in the market, saying that okay, my phone has 48 megapixel camera, your phone doesn't have that. You want better quality pictures, you come and purchase my phone. You want a better RAM, you come and purchase my phone. You want a better, more hardcore design, which basically means that it is it is more resistant to wear and tears, and even if you drop your phone, it doesn't matter. It will survive. Or if you want, I think so 5 years back or 6 years back, they came up with these waterproof phones, which was something which was a very strong innovation that was there in the mobile phone market, because originally if your phone is anywhere near water at that point of time, most probably your phone would stop working. Which basically meant that what they basically did was they purposefully you had, I think so it was Sony which first came up with the Xperia waterproof phone. You had Sony coming up with with a waterproof phone for the specific purpose to capture the market. They charged higher prices for it because it was a waterproof phone. But over a period of time, now you see Redmi as well as Nokia and Samsung, and even OnePlus and even iPhones and in Apple. They also offer the same waterproof quality or water resistant feature that 5 6 years back was something that Sony had first introduced into the market to create this differentiation that okay, people will see a waterproof phone, they'll come to us, they'll purchase it from us. So selling costs based on this product differentiation are different. For example, when Sony Xperia came up with the waterproof phone, people went crazy because no one in the world saw a waterproof phone. Uh, the fact that you have GoPro cameras, so that's what they call it, which means that if you take your what do you call that? If you take a Sony camera, a Sony DSLR, and you put it in the water, it's gone basically. You've lost like 30 40,000 rupees. But if you do that with the GoPro, the fact that the GoPro is water resistant and you can like swim in water with it and record water videos underwater is one of the reasons why these GoPro cameras are so expensive, because they can survive underwater, which a normal camera cannot do. And therefore, your selling costs based on the features available in a certain product or a certain good or service would be different, would be higher or lower based on what sort of phone you are purchasing. Uh, the next one is free entry and exit of firms. Again, this applies to both forms of markets. If a certain mobile phone, so for example, I think so does LG, who recently left the mobile phone market because they couldn't compete essentially with the multiple number of companies or companies or corporations that are selling mobile phones. So they exited the mobile phone market, and now they are better. They are concentrating on TVs and other electronics to make revenue for them. But you have that free choice to enter the market and to exit the market. So when OnePlus was created, uh, the person who created OnePlus, I forgot his name, but who founded OnePlus, or the fact that Tesla, I don't know if you've heard of Tesla and how Elon Musk, he entered the space market on his own. And what did he do in product differentiation? What did he do differently in product differentiation when it came to the space market? Is that SpaceX was one of the first companies to actually land a rocket. And you can go and see it on YouTube. So if you go and see it on YouTube, there is a platform on in one of the oceans over here, and the platform is literally standing like this, something like this, around something like this. My drawing is bad, so but what they essentially did is like if there's this big rocket like this, they basically landed the rocket on this platform. So originally, if you had seen what NASA used to do is if the rocket was entering the Earth in this direction, it would break up, disassemble, and the astronauts would be in a smaller shuttle with a parachute gliding towards or moving down towards the Earth. What Tesla did